Hey up guys, S-Man back at it again with a brand new Horizons review. Now, let's just get right into these reviews, but first make sure you guys like, subscribe, leave a comment about your thoughts on this episode. But yeah, let's just get right into it. The first episode, Filler. This episode is about the Rising Voltaclers meeting up with an old friend whose partner is a Why-Not, and his name is like Sayano, I think. I don't know how to pronounce it. He also doesn't have an English name yet, so we're just gonna call him Sayano because hopefully he never appears again. I hated this guy so much. Basically, his whole character is he is this truth-seeking journalist. But here's the problem. Half of his truths are his own interpretation of things. For example, he tells the kids stories about certain members of the Rising Voltaclers. And when they go ask them, they all are like, I mean, it's right, but like, it's not like exactly what he told you guys. Like, for example, they tell him that Murdoch had this 5-star chef course meal that he used to make. Murdoch says, yeah, I used to make that meal, but it was never really from my days as a chef, and it wasn't really 5 stars. He also makes up lies about Orla being this great, creating a master ship, and she straight up says, well, yeah, I can build a ship, but like, if I was building this incredible ship like he said, we'd be riding it. The only one who really hates this guy as much as I do is Molly, my goat of this episode, because she's really shows off why she hates this guy. But also at the same time, they would be such a cute couple. I'm not a shipper, but Molly's dynamic with this guy would make a really good romance anime. But yeah, but let me not rant about this dude anymore and just give you a quick summary of what happened in the episode. Episode starts off with them trying to find a lead on Enti. So they talk about this old Sayano because he is actually an author of the occult like magazines that Dot had actually read in previous episodes, which is actually a very interesting like callback because we saw Dot reading all those like occulture magazines, and now we learned that Sayano, a former member of the Rising Voltaclers, left the crew to become a journalist in one of those, which I actually think that's interesting that we have like this like old crew member who stuck with them for his dreams a bit because like it would help him see the world better, but like it got to a certain point where, hey, I need to split off with you guys in order to pursue my dreams of journalism. I think that's really interesting, but if this guy wasn't a fucking prick, that'd make this 10 times more interesting. But yeah, whole episode is basically him lying. Let's just go right there. And there's this subplot of Farafarigs just running around in the wild savannah area they're in, like causing a ruckus. Like it attacks the kids at one point, and then the kids fight back, and that's how they meet Sayano, and then Freed comes in and asks them all about it. Then later on in the episode, they're just like exploring after this dude's been lying to them all day, and he talks about, hey, the only reason I'm in this area is because I want to do an article about this, because apparently there's been some weird psychic like pulsing energy recently. So because Dot is also a fan of the occult like magazine, she wants to join him on the exploration, so obviously all the kids do. But yeah, they basically figure out what the energy is, and it's actually because there's a territory war between the Furry Giraffe and then Esprafra because of a recent blockage of the water supply of the area. They're in a territory war over the remaining water. So the Rising Voltaclers and Sayano solve their problem. Yeah, this episode was kind of boring. The best part of this episode was Molly, with like her interactions with Sayano, not feeding into his bullshit. Just for him to be like, hey, I'm your senpai, you gotta listen to me. Which is actually kind of funny because it's confirmed that the way the Rising Voltaclers formed, it was the original 3 of Freed, Ludlow, and Orla. Then they recruited Murdoch, Sayano, then Molly. And but Molly was 2 days after Sayano, but Sayano let that power go to his head and would constantly trick her and like bully her slightly. So that's why she hates him, because he would come up with constant lies. But the episode after he splits off from the group after telling them that recently he's heard of Entei being in Johto. Wow, what a shocker. The legendary Pokemon from Johto is in Johto. Yeah, but he tells them Entei's location and splits off. That's when we have a nice scene of Liko and Molly, where Molly actually reveals that because she has been tricked so much, she actually has come to learn how he really views the world. And he doesn't see himself as lying, but he just sees it as his own truth. And that's his like little catchphrase for episode, seek your truth. And there's also a key to know if he's telling a full factual truth or his own interpretation of the truth. It's why not's reaction. But yeah, the episode ends off with Dot being excited because the crew got included in the little occult article that he wrote. I didn't like this episode. It was alright, but like I genuinely feel like it would have been just better if they put the connection that hey, Entes are normally found in Johto. Let's go to Johto and just skip over this episode. It would be way better. But yeah. The funniest part of this episode though was a scene where he straight up tells the truth and tells them, "Hey, you know that Murdoch or Ludlow is a superhero?" And they without even asking Ludlow, they stare at him and just say, "Nah, he's not a superhero," and walk off. Which is also a really good segue in the next episode. But we're gonna give this episode 4 out of 10. Definitely not the worst episode of Horizons. That stupid freaking tumbleweed episode, but definitely close to it. But yeah, next episode. The Rising Volt Tacklers and Brave Asagi arrive in Olivine Town, where Liko actually puts it together that the ship was named after the city, which I'm surprised I have never noticed that. Well, to be fair, I didn't know Olivine's Japanese name was also Asagi, but then, not only that, but yeah. But once the name of the ship in English came out, I should have put it together, but I never really thought about it like that. But yeah. Because it's Ludlow's ship, he named it after his hometown, which they're visiting today, which is Olivine City. The group explore except for Murdoch, who's on the ship and wanting to make a traditional Johto treat. But a problem occurs with that when the Tatsugiri steals his dish, or his bowl to make the dish in, and run off. And that's the whole subplot of the episode, which eventually gets combined in the main plot. But yeah, while looking for Entei, Ludlow likes to show them around the city where a lot of his childhood, and younger things in this world are all gone. Which the kids do feel bad about seeing this old man have to explore his town that's changed so much. But Ludlow's actually really excited about it. He sees all these brand new things, and yeah, although some of the things he used to love has changed, it intrigues him that the world has been able to change so much, and even these new innovative things. And they all decide to go get Moo Moo milk at a brand new stand that's opened up where it used to just be an empty lot, showing that yeah, although change may take away some of the things you love, it also could bring some new things, like this empty lot becoming a whole delicious Moo Moo milk stand. This is where we see the whole cast just enjoying some milk. That's about that. Yeah. Then they go to chill on the beach, where Liko actually asks him a question of why did he leave his hometown, and he actually says, "Well, I don't really see it as my home. I see all places connecting the sea as my home, and the sea is basically calls out that, and Ludlow has and for Ludlow, the sea calls out to him, and just the exploration of the sea and the Pokemon that he can meet within the sea is the whole reason he feels like he lives for it, which I love it. We barely get any Ludlow development, but that's a really nice thought of hey, Ludlow is this fisherman who is just calling out to the sea for adventure and new Pokemon, and it makes sense why he sticks to the brave Asagi, besides it being his ship, his fishing boat that Freed basically hijacked. But he enjoys the adventures, although he sits out of a lot of them. He does enjoy them, and we even see, when necessary, he does like to participate in adventures. An adventure like today, he didn't need to participate, but he actually wanted to participate and explore his old town, and also help out the crew. But yeah, they notice a fisherman cleaning his boat when Roy realizes, hey, let's ask him about Entei. But he runs off to go watch his favorite movie, which him and Ludlow are able to recite word for word. They introduce themselves to the man, and he actually introduces himself to this famous, as a fisherman who is basically the #1 fan of this actor. His name is really hard to pronounce, so we're just gonna call him Mighty G, because that's who it is. It's young Ludlow. And that's why Ludlow is able to help recreate the movie with him, because they'll start it. Basically, the guy explains that this actor is an incredible like action hero whose famous works always involved him fighting a Sharpedo, no matter what the movie is about. For example, we see the original trilogy of his movies, his most famous ones, of just him fighting a Sharpedo and protecting people on the beach. But then it starts to get even more obscure. We have a romance with a Sharpedo, a sports movie with a Sharpedo, a school movie with Sharpedo. And it's just it's like constantly very funny jokes of like, oh, this actor starred in this kind of movie, but then there was a Sharpedo who attacked. And I loved that joke. That joke was so funny. But yeah. Moving on, Roy actually puts the connection that while watching the movie, this guy might be Mighty G because he strikes the same action pose. But the #1 fan refuses to acknowledge it because how could his hero grow old like Mighty G? Which also has Ludlow like feeling kind of bad. He's like, damn, I'm actually growing kind of old. But yeah, the old man takes them to an island where Mighty G's most famous movie was recorded on islands surrounded by a whirlpool. That is when the plots of the episode intertwine, where the Tatsugiri fall off the ship in Murdoch's little tray to cook the meal, with Quagsire noticing this and going to chase after them. The guy's showing them around the island when suddenly the gang notices the Tatsugiri getting trapped in a whirlpool, so the old man's partner Pokemon Wooper goes to save the day, emulating Quagsire. Because, although Quagsire was never really in the movie, the old man actually confirms that if you're a real fan of Mighty G, you know that his Quagsire was really the star behind the scenes of those movies. And that's why his partner is a Wooper, because of his admiration for Mighty G's Quagsire, which Ludlow obviously does support, with everybody thinking he's also just a Mighty G fan, but he really is just him. The kids try to save the Tatsugiri and Wooper, with them all using moves to try to shoot out the Tatsugiri with the magical leaf and water guns. And then Roy actually does something smart by sending out Watchel to go swoop into the whirlpool to catch them. But then Watchel and then kill Watchel just souls by getting all distracted. So Ludlow tries to sneak off, but the old man latches onto him and crying, "Please, please help us save Wooper. I can't swim. Can you swim, please?" Which was actually hilarious because Ludlow kept saying, "Yes, I will help. Let me go." So he could transform into Mighty G. Mighty G returns in this episode. He sends out Sharpedo, and they save the day. Him and Quagsire and Sharpedo. The old man finally realizes that Ludlow is Mighty G, that Mighty G and his hero actor are the same person, and they take a bunch of pictures together with the old man so happy to meet his hero. And Mighty G goes off into the sea to save more water Pokemon. The episode ends with Ludlow making a funny All Might joke with him going, "I can barely last 3 minutes anymore," just like how All Might did after the No-Move fight, and also having some back injuries. But yeah. Freed, Molly, and Orla come meet up with the crew, reveal they have nothing, where they introduce them to this guy who's a fisherman company here in the town. So he realizes, hey, wait, you guys are looking for Entei, because earlier he cut them off before they even got to ask. He says, hey, I know where Entei is actually. He's here. A recent customer of mine went to go searching for Entei. But yeah. So now, with their sights and knowing where Entei is, they head back to the ship, Murdoch's meal, and go off on their journey. Now, I like this episode way more. If this is these episodes both do the same. So basically do the same thing. It's a filler episode meant to basically just point them in a next direction for Entei. Sadano points them to Johto, while this fisherman points them towards the islands where Entei will be found. But I just feel like this episode was better because instead of they're both very similar, with little explorations of Rising Voltacular's backstory with a character that knows their backstory. But I just feel seeing as this guy, he doesn't really mean anything wrong. He's just an old man who's loves Mighty G. comparatively to Sadano, who's just a jackass. So yeah, that's why I like this episode. And also, every Love Low episode is kind of low key fun because you could because like it's just a very fun, exciting episode. Because like the whole concept of Low just being this old man who's secretly gaslighting or who's secretly moonlighting as a superhero is just hilarious. So yeah, so every time you get to see Mighty G, I just know it's gonna be a fun episode. But yeah, overall, I'll give this episode a 7 out of 10. Obviously, it wasn't the greatest episode of Horizons, but it was definitely a fun one. And it didn't feel like a waste of time, because, like, it gave them an exact location of Entei. Comparatively, than Sadano just saying, hey, go to Johto. But anyways, guys, that was it. That's it for the review. 2 just filler episodes, and I somehow made this video super long. But yeah, hope you guys like this video. Subscribe for more content like this in the future. S-Man just signing off.